everybody, welcome back to my channel, TabbyLoves. I'm Tabitha, and I talk to you about the things that I love. Today, you can tell by the title already, but I am going to be doing my January reading wrap-up. I actually got a lot of books read this month. Admittedly, most of them were audiobooks, but that doesn't really matter. We're going to be doing this from worst to best. So we'll be starting with the worst books I read this month, and then going down from there until we get to my favorite read of the month, which is going to be fun. And disclaimer, the lowest book rating I gave this month was a 3 stars. So, or like most of the low rated ones were 3 stars. So, they're not like anything particularly bad. Just some that I was a little bit indifferent about, but we'll get into it. I'm gonna definitely yap about each one of these. So, without further ado, let's get started. Starting, again, at the worst book I read this month, that would be Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, the second book in the From Blood and Ash trilogy. Or not trilogy, it's not a trilogy, there's like 6 or 7 books, it's a lot. But I had recently reread the first Blood and Ash book with my friend Adia as our, like, book of the month, like, a few months ago. And, the first time I read that book, I gave it 5 stars. I don't know what I was thinking the first time I read the book, because the second time reading from Blood and Ash, it was not a 5-star read. It was actually kind of painful to get through. So, I, however, have been kind of wanting to see how the series goes. I had tried to read this exact book, Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, before, and I literally couldn't do it. I don't know, like, I just wasn't in the mood, or I was really struggling with it, so, like, I had, like, DNF'd originally at 9%, but since I have been using the library, I've been decided to take the opportunity to try to finish this series, just to see what happens through audiobook, because audiobooks are a little bit easier to get through than physically reading them, if it's something like this. So I did, and I did finish it, and I do kind of plan on continuing the series up to a certain point, at least the next book, and see, because I want to see what happens, you know, I want to finish the lore, but we'll see. If it gets, like, extremely painful at any point, I won't force myself to go further. Plus, the library actually only has the audiobooks up to a certain point, so there's technically, like, 1 or 2 books at the end of the series that I would have to physically read. But we'll see how that feels once I get to it. Just to give you a quick synopsis, From Blood and Ash follows Poppy as she is struggling with being known as the Maiden, and she's not really allowed to talk to people. She's very, like, shut in. And she gets a new personal guard named Hawk, and she ends up, like, developing feelings for him. All of that. I can't really tell you what the second book is about without spoiling, so I won't get into it, because I don't like to spoil on these reading wrap-ups. But Poppy, just as she was in the first book when I was rereading it, she was just kind of, like, slightly annoying. Like, I didn't like all the long monologues of her thoughts, because they just got really, really repetitive. And that's where it got annoying, right? And it did happen in the first book, and it happens just as much in the second book. And didn't like the constant, like, repetitive fighting between her and the main male character. So those were just a few minor things I can tell you about it that, again, is not spoiling what happens. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. The next one is also a sequel. It's also a sequel to a book that I had given 5 stars, and that is the sequel to Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is called The Ballad of Never After. Again, another sequel. This one was also 3 stars. So, like, Once Upon a Broken Heart follows the main character. She, accidentally curses her, ex-boyfriend, I guess, a wedding party, because he's getting married to someone else. And she wanted to stop the wedding, and she accidentally turns herself and all the wedding guests into stone. And then she ends up getting, like, the curse reversed. And she's kind of famous for it. And gets invited to a ball where she's like, I want the king of this ball who's looking for a wife to fall in love with me. And she runs into Jax, the fate of broken hearts, or something like that, the prince of broken hearts. And he's the one that originally cursed her and all of that wedding party and turned them to stone. So she's a little bit hesitant to get his help, but she takes it. And the sequel is the continuation of that first story. Again, I won't get too far into it because I don't want to put spoilers in here. However, the main character, I felt was charmingly naive in the first one. In the second one, she was just stubbornly stupid. Like, there was a lot of choices that she made that I really feel like most people wouldn't have made, or like they would have asked more questions at least. But she was either all in or all out, and rarely actually seemed in that place of in between. And again, her whole thing with the MMC, it was annoying, but at least in this book I understood it at least significantly more than I did in Kingdom of what was it, Flesh and Fire. These titles are too fucking long, you guys. But anyway, yeah, so that's why I gave The Ballad of Never After 3 stars. Like, I maybe just suffer from second book syndrome. Is that what it's called? Like, the second book I think was just lacking. I liked the end. The end was intriguing, and I do plan on finishing up that trilogy too. There is only one more book in that, so that makes it a little bit easier. I'm trying to wrap up, if you couldn't tell, some of the series that I have started throughout the last few years, especially of doing book content. I've started so many series, and I kind of want to at least see the end of some of them. Not all of them, because not all of the series I have enjoyed. But at least the ones I had given originally 5 stars to. I wanted to keep going. Yeah. After that, this is gonna be potentially a controversial placement, especially considering the rest of the things on this list, right? But I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and here's the thing. I read it because I have heard in, like, the dark academia circles that this is a dark academia classic, and it's kind of like the original dark academia book. So I was like, it's been on my list to read for a while, and I finally got it in as an audiobook through the library, and it was interesting. It was an interesting experience. I guess you could say it's an experiment too. Because it was both simultaneously interesting and boring. Like, I was interested in the underlying motives of these characters. I was interested in seeing how the prologue we are given, what happens that leads to that prologue. And I was all curious in that. However, the pacing of it felt so slow. And, honestly, I hear all the time in the dark academia spaces that people complain about modern dark academia because the academia is not that big a part of it. But the academia didn't feel like a big part of this book either. The only academic part is that, yeah, they were all going to Hampton College, and they were all in the same Greek class that's like a really, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a really, like not a lot of students are allowed to be in this class. I couldn't think of the exact word, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. There was only 5 kids in this class, 6 once the main character came along, so it was really prestigious. That's what I was looking for. And, it's about, like, he develops friendships with all the people in the class, and he finds out more about what's going on. But it takes some weird turns. Again, it's really, really slow getting up to the climax. The climax happens halfway through the book, and then you have the entire, like, aftermath, which is honestly it's like watching a train wreck. It's just really slow watching their lives fall apart after the events of what is shown in the prologue again. So basically, they kill their friend Bunny in the prologue, and you find out why they killed him, and then you find out what happens after, and, like, the lives they live, that sort of thing. It's, like, I could see on one hand why some consider this a dark academia classic. I mean, like, you've got, the murder, the small class, the eccentric professor, though the professor actually wasn't that deep into it. The characters, while interesting, they were all kind of two-dimensional, some scenes more than others, so it was just kind of all over the place. But because I know that one's considered a classic, I know there's a lot of people that would probably pin this up higher, because, like, yeah, the writing was good. I just don't know if I was all for some of the story elements. But anyway, moving on. So the next book is Belladonna. So this book was actually a part of, it's like the final book I had to read for this podcast, Book Talk for Book Talk. They do kind of like, I think it's around 4 times a year, they do like a book club esque, like setup, kind of. So I don't know why I struggled to explain it for a second. Like, they basically say, like, hey, we're doing these books, we're gonna be reading these books and do an episode of each one, like, talking about it, and then us as the listeners, we go and read those books, and so we can, like, kind of, like, follow the discussion, and they do offer, like, put your thoughts in on Instagram, that sort of thing. They do, like, a, like, deep dive analysis of books. They've been doing the Throne of Glass series. They're gonna be doing Silver Flames, in this upcoming new year after this book club's over. But anyway, it was the final book on the list, which is why I read it. And I actually had been vaguely interested in reading this book anyway, though I had originally thought that I had owned it. Otherwise, I probably would have done this as an audiobook, but I didn't because I thought I owned it, so I was waiting till I was in a place of my reading where I could get to it, only to find out that the book that I thought I owned, that was Belladonna, it was actually House of Hollow, because the covers are very similar. So, I didn't own it, and then I had to get it off KU and then read it on my Kindle. But that's beside the point. Again, this was another 3 stars. Like, all these past books have all been 3 stars. Because that's just, honestly, that's the rating I give most books, I think, is either 3 or 4 stars. Sometimes 2 stars if they were really bad. Like, all of these books I struggled with, but I was entertained to some degree. So, they all got 3 stars. Anyway, Belladonna follows this girl named Sina, and she, like, basically is an orphan because her parents had a party where everyone was poisoned, including her as, like, a few-month-old baby. But she basically couldn't die. Like, the poison took effect, and then she was able to see death as a baby, but she didn't die, and then the effects were reversed and she was fine. And she continues that way. She's, like, when she's 5, she falls down the stairs and breaks her neck, and then she sees death, like, in the corner or whatever, and then her neck heals, and she's fine. That's kind of where we're starting off. But because she's an orphan, and because death kind of follows her around, she goes from place to place a lot, and she was staying with a really bad aunt at the beginning of this book, and she, basically, her dream is to debut into society, and she feels like she'll never get that chance because she always is with these family members that are basically kind of, like, don't care about her. They just care about the money they get for taking care of her. And she's like, once I'm old enough to inherit my estate and my money, I can debut into society. But when her aunt dies, she gets an invitation to go stay with, it was like her cousin's family, but her cousin is dead. It's just her cousin's husband and his kids, but he offers to take her in and to help her debut into society, and so she takes it, and when she gets there, it turns into, like, this murder mystery. It was kind of fun. Like, I was back and forth on Sina a little bit. I felt like she definitely jumped to conclusions a bit. She was awkward, but the awkwardness was kind of endearing, but I ended up really liking Sina as a character, despite some of the annoyance of her jumping to conclusions and that sort of thing. And I do kind of want to continue this series and see what's up with the rest of the series. But I'll probably do the rest of them as audiobook, to be honest. But they're going to be lower down on the list because they're not that high of a priority. But I'm just curious, you know? I just want to see what's up. For this next one, we are finally leaving the 3-star area and getting into the 4-star area. And I'm gonna basically talk about these 2 books together, though on the list they're Hellbent and Ninth House. Ninth House is the first book in the series. I liked the first book better than the second book, but I liked them both, and I thoroughly enjoyed them both. Now, Ninth House follows Alex. Her real name is Galaxy, but she goes by Alex. And so, Galaxy Alex Stern, she can see ghosts, or in this world they're called Greys, and she's always been able to see ghosts. And once, like, there's this big, like, fatal accident that occurs between her and a bunch of her friends, because she was not living a good life before she gets this offer, right? But she was living with, like, a bunch of, like, other people that were, like, dealing drugs and using drugs, and with an abusive boyfriend, all of that. And then overnight they're all dead, and she doesn't know what happens, and she gets an offer to attend Yale on a scholarship with the specification that she has to join Leafy, who is the Ninth House in this, like, secret society sort of getup, where they use like the power of ghosts and greys and like these powers of like nexuses of power to perform rituals and do magic. And each of the houses that are involved in the secret society have like a different specific magic that they deal with. For example, there's one called like I think Wolfhead, which I think the author did say these are actual like houses and societies in Yale. She added the magic to it because she went to Yale, so she knows like kind of a bit more about this area. I did not go to Yale, so I don't know. I'm just telling you what was told to me. But so like Wolfhead, for example, they specialize in transformation magic, and their rituals, which apparently the houses take turns having rituals every Thursday for some reason. But they will use their ritual nights to transform into various animals, sometimes one of them, sometimes multiple of them, that kind of thing. And Leafy's job is to oversee the rituals and make sure everything's safe and to make sure nobody gets hurt, either the people in the ritual or any civilians in the area, that kind of thing. And Alex's mentor, basically, he disappears. And so we're bouncing between two timelines. One timeline is from his point of view, with Alex first joining Leafy. And then it's her present day point of view after her mentor has gone missing and she's trying to solve murder. It's another murder mystery with a girl that can see ghosts. I don't know why that was the theme of January. It was just a very ghosty month, okay? But I loved it. Like, Ninth House is also another kind of dark academia. I don't know if classic's the right word, because it's actually not that old of a book. And actually, so it's going to be a trilogy, but there's only the first two books out. So I'm interested to see what the final book in that trilogy is going to be. I'm definitely going to be keeping an ear out for that. But anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed Ninth House. I thought Alex was a fascinating character, and it's definitely like the thoughts about morality were very interesting. The way that these ghosts are used, the mystery of whether or not this death was even like supernatural at all or not. She's got like everyone against her. It's a great setup. And it does continue really well in Hellbent. Though Hellbent, it expands, because I feel like Ninth House was really showing you what the world looked like. Hellbent kind of showed you what the world could look like and what the outside the normal practices of the secret society, what that looks like, as they are again still trying to find her mentor. He's still not back by the end of Ninth House. I'm sorry if that's a spoiler technically, but that's the whole point of the second book. And again, like I said, I still really enjoyed the second book. It got a little bit lower on the list than Ninth House just because I just liked Ninth House better. Like, Ninth House was a little bit more not cohesive, because they're both cohesive. I don't know. There's just something about Ninth House I liked better. That's all I can say. I'm having trouble digging deeper than that. Drink break. You gotta take your drink. Water. Alright, now we are in the top 3, which, okay, listen. This is where my list is gonna get controversial, because in the third place is Ice Planet Barbarians. Now, like, this is on a technicality, right? Because for a book that's basically an erotica, it got 5 stars for that genre, and because it got 5 stars, it is on the top of this list of the other 2 books I gave 5 stars. However, technically, there are several books on this list that I put lower that are better written, that are honestly just like overall like more, what's the word I'm looking for? More intellectual books. But I thoroughly enjoyed Ice Planet Barbarians, and again, for its genre, it is 100% a 5-star book. And it's definitely a series that I want to continue reading, even though there's so many books in this series, and I don't think I'll read them all. But I do want to explore more of this universe. So I don't know. I had to. I have an entire reading vlog about me reading Ice Planet Barbarians, and I have reviews posted both in that same video that I posted on here, and it's also in on my TikTok page as well. You might also be able to find it in the shorts on my YouTube. I can't remember if I uploaded it into my shorts or not. If I didn't, I will. It will be there by the time this video goes out. So if you want to hear more about that book and the specifics of that book, go watch that reading vlog or the short or whatever. But yeah. Anyway, okay, let's go on. The two books that are at the top of my list were both physical books that I physically own, which is a huge win in my book. I know my taste pretty well, so when I buy physical books, there's a high chance that they will be what I enjoy. So number 2 on my list is Dragon Fruit. Now, this was actually my first read of the year, and it was a great first read. I love how it tackled the kind of concepts of, like, poaching, and, like, the hunting of, it kind of, like, was reminiscent of whaling, right? Instead of, like, hunting whales, they hunt sea dragons, and you follow, this one, like, woman who was not kicked off of her island, but her dad stole her away because he used the dragon fruit to save her from a poison that she was inflicted with. And so she felt like she couldn't go back because the princess that she was a page to was also infected by this poison and is in a comatose state ever since. And she felt like because her dad did this unspeakable thing, she wouldn't be welcome back either, even though it wasn't her fault. And so she ended up spending some time. First, she was a child worker for this really bad poacher. And then later she went into marine research at this one school and was helping them, like, research sea dragons because she always had a love for them. And as events happen in the book, she ends up going back to her island and teaming up with her childhood friend and working together to stop the said bad poacher that she used to work for, that has been hunting these sea dragons and is not a great guy. I loved every little second of this book. There is, like, this fun, like, magic that's only for these specific islanders where they, like, their tattoos, they did, like, when they reach a certain age, they get a tattoo of some sort of animal that's, like, a magic tattoo that can come out of their skin as that animal. Like, one of them has, like lightning bugs, and so the lightning bugs can, like, lift themselves off her skin and provide light. The prince has a little spider. What's the name of the spider? I don't know if it says it on here. I forget what its name was. It started with a V. No, it wasn't a spider. The queen has a spider. The prince had the bat. I suddenly remembered. The spider ended up being important too. But yeah, I think that's just so fun. Like, I love it, and I'm always a sucker for books with either dragons as the main theme or animals, and this got both of them in one. I wanted to check out the other books that this author has written, because I think she has written other books. Yeah, she's written Year of the Reaper, Isle of Blood and Stone, Song of the Abyss, and A Death Struck Here. So I might be checking out some of these other books that she has written in the future. We'll see. Alright, so now we're down to the final book on my list. My favorite read of the month was The Prince Without Sorrow. I actually just finished it. It was my last read of the month too. It's great that, like, my top 2 was my first read of the month, my last read of the month. And while this could have recency bias, I don't care. This book follows, it's basically, the author says it's inspired by a real ancient Indian empire, the Mauryan Empire, but in this one, these Mauryans, there's a cruel, like, emperor, I think he is, and he has been leading a campaign against the Mayakari, which, I'm sorry if I pronounced any of these wrong. I read it and not listened to it, so if I'm saying these wrong, I greatly apologize. But the Mayakari are witches, and because they have this magic, and they're all women, by the way. Only women can be Mayakari. But because they have this magic, the emperor was not only, like, kind of scared of them, but he also, like, who tried to eliminate them. Like, there was a, like, full-on, like, Mayakari killings are common. They burn test innocent women in the streets to see if they might be witches because they burn a different color than apparently the average woman burns. Like, I think they burn blue instead of the usual red, I guess. And so in this book, you follow, Shakti, which is a Mayakari who, the witches in this book, they have a vow of pacifism. They do not harm, do not kill. That is their general way of life. And this witch breaks that vow because she watched, like, her aunt and all of her, like all of her village burned because they were Mayakari. And so she, in turn, curses the emperor. And then on top of that, we also follow the emperor's youngest son. I'm going to butcher his name. Hold on. It's like Ashoka? I want to say it's how it's said. Ashoka. But he, again, is the son of this cruel emperor, and all of his siblings are also cruel, like, tough, like, violent people. But he wants peace. Like, he is a pacifist as well. But unlike the witch that we follow who breaks her power of pacifism, he tries his best to keep it, and he doesn't want to cause violence, and he wants to try to solve everything diplomatically. And then his whole storyline is exploring, like, if he even can do that, or if there are some things that, like, some people that have to die in order to right his cause. So it's a really interesting, like, juxtaposition between, you know, the morality of pacifism, what, you know, how much violence is too violence, or is any violence bad? Like, is choosing a violent route and thinking a violent route the bad route? And we don't get an answer to that because this is, like, the first book in, I don't know if it's a series or, like, I mean, I don't know if it's a trilogy. It is a series. I don't know how many books are going to be in it. I think it's just this one book out now, because I think this came out last year. But yeah, that's what she's gonna be just, like, exploring throughout this series. It's also about family infighting. Like, there's a lot of family infighting between the siblings once their dad dies, and, it was just so well done. And the magic and the mythology in this was just, like, it was so good. It was so fun to read something not so Eurocentric as well, to focus on a different kind of climate, a different kind of people, a different kind of mythology. It was just all around fun. I highly recommend it. And with that, that's the end of my reading wrap-up. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment down below if you have read any of these. Let me know what you think. And I'm sorry that I rated The Secret History so low, but I just couldn't help it. Like this if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Love ya. Goodbye.